Greetings, mighty companions, and welcome back to Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles with me, annarebeccaquinn. Thank you so much for joining me here today in this healing circle where we are going to read from A Course in Miracles. This is a Course in Miracles class that I am a Course in Miracles teacher. That is what we study and try to apply in my classes. And if you don't know what A Course in Miracles is, A Course in Miracles is a spiritual path and it is a healing curriculum. It is a healing curriculum that is a self-study curriculum that a lot of people find it helpful to study with a facilitator such as myself, who has been studying it and trying to apply it for many years. I have been studying and teaching A Course in Miracles for 40 years. So, to say the least, I am a bit obsessed with A Course in Miracles because it works. So, that is what I do here on Monday evenings. I teach from A Course in Miracles. And my purpose as A Course in Miracles teacher is to help you to understand what A Course in Miracles is saying and to also understand how to use it, how to apply it. The Course in Miracles says that once you apply these principles, which means use them, then you will see that these ideas are true and that they do what they promise, which is they produce miracles, miracles of healing, joy, peace, abundance, whatever kind of peace you need. This is a Course in Miracles, and it's not called A Course in Miracles for nothing. These are principles that when you use them and apply them, you experience miracles of peace, joy, abundance, and happiness. Things, happiness and peace and joy that seem to defy the laws of space and time as we know them. Miracles. Okay. So, like I said, they don't call it A Course in Miracles for nothing. Okay. So it's a healing path. It's a healing curriculum. Okay. And the Course in Miracles says that all healing in the end comes down to an undoing of fear. So this is a curriculum, a course for the undoing of fear and the experience of the joy and peace and abundance that comes when the fear is undone. So that's our little introduction to A Course in Miracles and this class. And I'm going to come over here and see if I can turn it on for my my Facebook. So just give me a moment here. Let's see here. All right. There we go. All right. Let me just change the privacy setting on here so that you can see me. Hold on 1 minute, guys. Here we go. All right. Okay. Now you guys can also follow me live on Facebook as well. All right. Beautiful. Yay. Hi, Pete. Lovely to see you. Holy Spirit in the house. All right. Hi, Irene. Wonderful. Beautiful. All healing and happy birthday, Irene. So happy that you are feeling better, my friend. Lovely to see your beautiful face on Facebook, enjoying your happy birthday dinner with your husband, your beautiful husband. All right. So where we're going to be today, my friends, is we are going to be in chapter 28, section 3. And it's in both editions. If you have the blue covered edition or if you have the original edition in whatever form you have it, it's chapter 28, section 3. The original title of this section is The Feast of Plenty. I love this title. I really do. I love what A Course in Miracles has to say about the real source of lasting abundance. And this title speaks to where the real and lasting source of lasting abundance really comes from. And so now, so the original title is The Feast of Plenty. And the title in the blue covered edition, which is the edition that has had a significant amount of editing to it, still all basically the same message. But the edited title is The Agreement to Join. So if you have the blue covered edition, it's chapter 28, section 3, The Agreement to Join. If you have the original edition in whatever form you have it, it's chapter 28, section 3, The Feast of Plenty. So we are going to hear about the lasting source of health and healing. We're going to hear about the source of lasting abundance. And it's the same place, spoiler alert, but that's what we're going to be hearing about today in this section. We're going to hear about where sickness really comes from, according to A Course in Miracles, and also where lasting abundance comes from. Like, where can I find lasting abundance in my life? Where can I find lasting health? Okay, so healing, health. So if there's any area of your life right now where you are experiencing a need for some health and healing, pay attention. If you are experiencing some lack of abundance in your life right now, pay attention. It's going to tell us where lack and sickness really, really come from. And spoiler alert, it's not the body. It's not some kind of sickness that's going around. Okay. And where sickness really comes from and where lack really comes from may surprise you if you're new to this curriculum, or if you're just tuning in and you have no idea what this curriculum is about. But remember, A Course in Miracles is a self-study curriculum in healing, in the undoing of fear that produces sickness and lack and war and disease and all that stuff that none of us like. All right. So that's where we're at. Chapter 28, section 3. And also, if you wouldn't mind, if you would be willing to hit the like, share, and subscribe button and help the algorithm to push this class out to more people, because this Course in Miracles is a very powerful healing curriculum whose ideas are a miracle for all. So thank you for doing that. All right. Right. So here's where we are at chapter 28, section 3, the Feast of Plenty. All right. Now, welcome your comments and your questions. Yes, that's right. Very good, Pete. The agreement to join is the Feast of Plenty. You got it already. You're fast. Okay. The realization that we are joined is the Feast of Plenty. It's also the healing of the sicknesses and the illnesses that we experience as humans. So right on. You got that one, Pete. Very good. You're so fast. You fast. Okay. So here we go. It says, what waits in perfect certainty beyond your healing, the healing of your mind, is not our concern. So once we've accepted the healing of our mind, the undoing of fear and guilt in our mind, what waits after that, he said, that's not really our concern right now. Why? Because we have barely started to allow our first uncertain steps to be directed up the ladder that separation led us down. Okay. So what happened here? What happened is that somewhere along the line, of course, the separation, the detour and the fear, the fall from grace, whatever you want to call it, We went down, we went down the ladder of separation, the belief that we were separate from our source and separate from all of creation. That's how this whole hot mess started. Of course, in Miracles says that this dream of death began with a crazy, tiny, mad idea that we could be separate from our source and all of creation. And that was the first step down the ladder of separation, where it seems like now you can die. Now it seems like you can lack. Now it seems like you can go without, etc., etc. Okay? So we have just begun our first steps back up the ladder that separation led us down. So all we're talking about right now is how to get back up that ladder. And what is at the top of that ladder, when we get to the top of that ladder, that's not our concern. It says the miracle is our concern right now. And what's a miracle? It's one more step up that ladder toward peace, towards joy, towards lasting abundance that separation had led us down. So it says the miracle alone right now is our concern at present. The miracles of healing, miracles of abundance, the undoing of fear and guilt, that is our concern at present. Here's where we've got to begin. And having started, will the way back to peace and joy and abundance be made serene and simple in the rising up to waking and the end of the dream of separation. So that's where we're going. It's telling us where we're going. It says how we got here. We went down the ladder of the belief in separation, and that's how it happened. That's how we got here. And now where we're going is we're rising up. We're rising up to the waking. We're rising up to waking from the dream, from the bad dream, from the nightmare of separation. Okay. Of course, a miracle says we are having a nightmare of separation. Of course, in Miracles tells us that the fall from grace, the detour into fear, the separation, the perception of the leaving of the Garden of Eden, it was all because of a tiny, insane idea that we could be separate from our source and separate from each other, and that is the one problem. The one problem that is the source of all the problems is the belief in separateness. I'm different from you. You're different from me. We're separate from God. We're separate from creation, which really means we're alone and on our own. Course in Miracles says that's our one problem, is that belief, that lie that crossed our mind that we forgot to laugh at. Okay, that's the one problem. And so the one answer is now the rising and the waking to the waking up to the realization that there is no separation. We are not separate from our source. We're not separate from the source of life and love and joy. We're not separate from all of creation. That's the journey that we're on right now. Okay. What got us here is we believed in separation and we went down, down to the ground. And then now the journey that we're on now, the journey back to peace, the journey back to joy, is the journey where we rise up back that ladder of separation that we came down, and to the realization that there is no separation. And the idea, the belief in separation was just a dream, it was just a bad dream, just a bad dream. All right. Hi, Bridget. Lovely to see you. Hi, Demi. Oh, right on. Yes, sending lots of love to you, Demi. Lots of love as you celebrate your dad's liberation from the belief in separation. You know, right now, your dad knows the truth now that that there is no separation. Like your dad knows more right now about that than you do, Demi. So I join you in celebrating your dad's liberation from the dream, his rising up. What does it say? His rising up to waking, um, and the ending of the dream of separation. So I'm sad for your loss and happy for his liberation, sweetie. And now you have another helper on the other side, and what could be bad for that? All right. Lovely to see you guys, Bridget. All right. Okay, here we go. So we just heard how we got here in the mess, and we heard where we're going and how we get out of the mess. We are rising up to the awakening and the ending of the dream, and the ending of the dream of separation, which is the ending of the dream of lack, and the end of the dream of loneliness, and the end of the dream of sickness. That's where we're going, folks. Isn't that good to be reminded every once in a while where you're going? It's like how we get here, where we're going. Okay, it's good, and it's good news. It says, when you accept a miracle of healing, you're not adding your dream of fear to a dream that's already being dreamed. Without support, your dream of fear and lack and guilt and sickness, it will fade away without effects, because it's only your support of the illusion of lack and loneliness and fear that strengthens that illusion. Course in Miracles calls our experiences of lack, sickness, fear, guilt, sin, pain, suffering. Course in Miracles calls it a dream. Course in Miracles says it's a dream for you to experience something that God, the Creator, did not create, like lack, like separation, like death, like fear, like guilt. He says you have to be dreaming, right? God, if God didn't create it, it ain't real. And God, who is life, who is abundance, who gives everything to God's creations, God did not create lack. God did not create death. God did not create fear. And if God didn't create it, then all you can do is dream that it's true. And so that's what Course in Miracles says about our whatever sufferings that we have, is just that it's a dream, it's a fantasy, it's an imagining. And isn't that good news? Isn't that good news to hear that if I wasn't believing in this problem, it would disappear, it would fade away without effects. If I wasn't believing in this lack, in this pain, in this suffering, in this sickness, in this guilt, in this shame, if I wasn't believing in it, if I wasn't supporting it, it would just fade away without effects. Isn't that wonderful news? All right. So that was paragraph 1. All right, you guys. So happy to see you all here. So happy to see you. You guys are awesome. All right. So now it's going to talk about healing and how to be with people who are suffering in such a way that their suffering fades away and fades away without effects. Okay. Would you like to know how to be with people who are sick and suffering in any way, shape, or form, financially, physically, emotionally, you name it? Would you like to hear how to be with people, what to remember for people who are suffering, that truly ends their suffering? Like, how do you really be helpful? How do you be a healing angel for people who are experiencing some kind of sickness, body, mind, or spirit? Here's how you do it. It says, no mind is sick unless another mind agrees with them that they are separate from you. So nobody is sick, no mind is sick unless you agree with that mind that they are separate from you. Isn't that interesting? And so, what does that mean? That means that it is you and their joint decision to be sick. So if they are sick, then then some joint you must have agreed with them that you and they are separate. So if I don't agree with somebody that me and them are separate, if I don't agree with that, I don't agree that our minds are separate, then they can't be sick. Isn't that deep? Boy, that's not what we hear about what healing means. That's not what we hear about how to be a healer and how to be helpful for other people. But it's telling us that they can't be sick unless we agree that we're separate from them, separate and different. Okay. So it says, but if you withhold agreement from that person that you and they are separate and different, and you accept the part that you play in making their sickness seem real, then that other person's mind cannot project its guilt without your aid in letting their mind perceive itself as separate and apart from you. Wow. Okay. So if I withhold agreement from them that they and me, my mind are separate, they can't be sick. They cannot be sick. Wow. So what is it that I want to do to be a healing, to be a healing, to bring healing to this person? When I'm with somebody and they are suffering, body, mind, or spirit, that's sickness. Sickness is body, mind, or spirit. And with somebody and they're suffering, in my mind, if I will not agree that we are separate, and I will remember that our minds are joined, our minds are connected, as all minds are, then that person can be sick. That person's sickness and mine fade away without effects. Woo. That's how all the great, great saints have healed people throughout time. You think about Buddha or Jesus or Allah, they were known to be able to heal people just by just with a look. And the way they did that was when they were in the presence of someone who was suffering, they didn't see that person as separate from them. They saw that person not as a sick and a sick body that's separate from them. They saw that mind as united, as part of their mind. And that's why that person was healed without a word, without a word. Because remember, seeing somebody as not separate from you, connected to you, not different from you, that does not require words at all. That just requires your awareness and your agreement. Okay? So you don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything to be a healer for others. It's about what you are remembering and what you are choosing to agree with them about. All right. So beautiful. Isn't that amazing? It's such a powerful reminder about how to be truly helpful to other people, right? And so, as they're telling you their problems, you are remembering in your mind that their mind and your mind are not separate. You silently are thinking, there's no gap between my mind and yours. There's no gap between our minds. There is no separation. God created us connected. We are one. There is no gap between our minds, and there's no gap between our minds and the mind of source. There is no gap between our minds. We are one. If that's what you're remembering silently while that person is telling you about their suffering, you are literally healing them and yourself. That's how real healing happens. Okay. It's not where you tell them what they're doing wrong and what they should do differently. That's not what healing is. That's not where healing comes from. Healing comes from the remembrance and the awareness of no separation. Okay. Because where does sickness come from? Just the belief in separation. When people feel separate, people feel alone. When people feel alone, they feel scared and guilty. When people feel scared and guilty, then their bodies mirror that. When you feel scared and guilty, your brain is producing cortisol, uh, uh, which is not good for your body. It lowers your immune system. So you can really see here how when you feel alone, when you feel separate, which means when you feel lonely, of course, you're going to feel scared. And when you feel afraid, then it is producing a state within your mind and your body where sickness can thrive. Okay, that's how it goes. If you knew that it was impossible to be alone and on your own, if you knew that God goes with you everywhere you go, and you knew that you were connected with all beings, then you would never be afraid. And your body would not then get sick. Okay? Sickness comes from a mind that feels afraid and guilty because it believes it's alone and on its own. You know how you feel when you're in the midst of your friends? You feel safe, you feel strong, right? All right. So, okay, beautiful. SoCal, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. SoCal, thank you. And Bridget says, Jesus says we could heal the sick and raise the dead. That's right. And of Course in Miracles tells you those trade secrets. Okay. How did they heal the sick and raise the dead? This is how they did it. And this is how you do it. Okay. Now, then it says, so no mind is sick. No mind is sick unless another mind agrees that they are separate. Okay. Now we're on paragraph 2, and now we are in sentence. Now we're in sentence 4. Thus is the body not perceived as sick by both your minds from separate points of view. What does that mean? That means uniting with someone's mind prevents the cause of sickness and the perceived effects of sickness. I'll say it again. Uniting with another's mind prevents the cause of sickness and the perceived effects of sickness. And just like healing is the effect of minds that join, sickness comes from minds that believe they are separate. Okay, so very important here. What does it mean to perceive that you are separate from another? Let's talk about that for a moment, because that's where sickness comes from. So, what does it mean to perceive yourself as separate from others? What it means, of course, in Miracles tells us, is that it means that we're not it means that I perceive that we're different and we're not connected. You can experience something I don't experience with you. I can experience something that you don't experience. That's what it means to perceive yourself as separate from another or them from you. It means that you perceive that they can experience suffering without you experiencing suffering right along with them. That's what it means to perceive yourself as separate. It means that you perceive that you can experience happiness without them experiencing happiness because you're different. Look, they're in their body, you're in their body. And so you think that you can experience something they don't experience right along with you, and vice versa. That's what it means to see yourself as separate from others, or to see them as separate from you. That's what it means. It means you think they can experience something without it affecting you, and you think you can experience something without affecting them. And that's just not true. That's just not true. The Course in Miracles says that because we're one, that I can't experience something that you don't experience with me. That's what it means to be one. That's the good news and the bad news. The bad news is that if there are others that are suffering, you're going to suffer right along with them because you're one with them. The good news is that because you're one, you can ask for peace for both of you and healing for both of you, remembering that you're connected, and both of you experience peace together at the same time. So that's the good news and the bad news about being one. Oh, yes. Thank you. He says, I can't stop staring at that beautiful blue crystal behind you on the drawer. Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Yes. As you can see, I have lots of quartz. I'm cuckoo for quartz. It's one of my healing devices is quartz. So beautiful. So yeah. So you tuning in here, you're like tuning in to like some high vibe scenery going on here. Lots of crystals around. Crystals are thought amplifiers, and I love the idea of amplifying these ideas. So, all right. Hi, Monica. Lovely to see you, dear. Lovely to see you. All right. Okay, beautiful. So we're talking about healing. Hi, Shahira. Lovely to see you. Thank you, Shahira, for being here. Thank you for all your wonderful support, Shahira. I really appreciate you. Okay. Now, so it says, uniting with another's mind prevents the cause of sickness and its perceived effects. Healing is the effect of minds that join, just like sickness comes from minds that separate. So the miracle of healing does nothing just because the minds are joined and cannot separate. So a miracle of healing isn't doing anything. A miracle of healing is just recognizing the truth, which is our minds are joined. So that's what a miracle is. It's not like I join our minds. I join my mind to you. No, a miracle is just we're like, oh yeah, that I just remembered our minds are joined. I can't experience something without you, and vice versa. So the miracle is just recognizing the truth. Is not making us one. It's just recognizing we already are connected and joined. Now, then it says, yet in the dreaming, this fact that our minds are all joined has been reversed. And in the dreaming, the dream of sickness, then it seems like separate minds are seen as bodies which are separated and which cannot join. All right. So beautiful. All right. That was paragraph 2. Okay. So now we're going to go to paragraph 3. And I want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for your super chats. Thank you for doing that so that the algorithm goes, oh, this is important. Let's shoot this out to more people. These are the ideas we want shot out to more people for sure. Because there's a lot of sickness going on in the world. A lot of people who don't know that we're one, that we're connected, that our minds are joined. There's a lot of people out there that feel lonely and on their own and are experiencing a lot of sickness because of that illusion. Okay? And we are the light of the world. The light of the world brings peace to the minds of the world through us. It's us. Of Course in Miracles says it's not God who's going to do the final judgment. It's not God who's going to be doing the final healing for humanity. It's us. Why? Because most people can't hear the voice for love for themselves. Most people can't hear the voice for God for themselves, but they can hear the voice for love through a body, through your body. So the final healing for humanity happens through us. It happens through us. So thank you for taking your part among the healers of the world. Thank you. The world is saved and healed through us, right? Because most people can't hear the voice for God for themselves yet. So they need a body through which they can hear God's voice, reminding them that they are not alone, that they're not on their own. They're not separate. They're connected. You know, you know. As a psychotherapist, I know well the power of joining minds for healing. I mean, if you look at any kind of support group or recovery group, the people who, let's say, they have some sort of um, terminal illness or some kind of major illness, or if they are experiencing addiction, that when they join in a support group with other people who had been suffering the way they had, their the statistics of their recovery just shoot up. They just shoot through the roof. Why is that? Why is that? That when people join recovery groups or support groups, that their recovery and their healing just shoots through the roof. It's because when they get in that support group or that recovery group, they remember that they're not alone, and they experience the fact of being connected. They experience the fact that they're not alone. And what happens when we realize that we're not separate and not alone? What happens? We heal, because where's the sickness coming from? The belief that we're separate, the belief that our minds are separate. So these ideas are so powerful for real and lasting healing. Okay, now we're in paragraph 3. Beautiful. Yes, Bridget says, yes, a lot of sickness of the mind of many in this world, but countries waking up. Agreed. Exactly. And that is true. We are waking up. We are waking up to we are one, and thank you, Internet, for that. We're really seeing that truly what happens on that side of the world affects what's happening on the other side of the world. We are waking up to the fact that if there's other people suffering, even on the other side of the world, it affects us, right? And because of the internet, it seems like the world is getting smaller, but what's really happening is that we are experiencing the fact that what one of us in humanity experience, the rest of us experience with them. Even if you have all the power, fame, money, and physical pleasure in the world, if there's some people in the world who don't have that, then guess what? They're going to turn to crime and come for the people who seem to have it. That's just one of those obvious proofs of the fact that we are connected, that we do not experience anything by ourselves. What some of humanity experiences, the rest of humanity is going to experience with them one way or another. When people on that side of the world feel separate and alone and on their own, then guess what? They're going to be coming for the other people, to get from the people who seem to have something, right? So, and the people who feel separate and sick and alone and on their own and disconnected, they're going to uh, do what it takes to get the attention. They're going to do what it takes to hurt the people that they think do have what they don't have. And so it really is true that we're one and that we're connected. And it's really true that unless all have the abundance, the everything that God has given to everybody, unless they all have it, then we don't or really experience it fully without fear of losing it or being attacked. Okay. So it really is true. All right. So paragraph 3. Then it says, don't allow your brothers and sisters to be sick. Don't allow them to be sick. Interesting. Because if they are sick, you have abandoned them to their own dream of sickness and aloneness by sharing their dream of separation and sickness with them. Wow, if they are sick, that means we have abandoned them to their dream that they are separate and sick and alone. Right. That's right. If they're sick, it's because we abandoned them to their dream that they are alone and sick. And what do they do? What do frightened, alone, and sick people do? Well, they can be very vicious. Frightened people can be very vicious if you haven't noticed that. So, if they're frightened and alone, if they're sick and alone, then we have abandoned them, and we will suffer along with them because we're all connected, right? What do people who feel alone and broken sick do? You know, they steal and rob and murder and take from the folks that seem to have what they don't. So it's not possible that other people believe in the illusion of separation and aloneness and sickness by themselves. Okay. Now, every person that you encounter, every person that's in your life, every person that you meet, even though it seems like an accidental encounter, the Course in Miracles says it's not an accidental encounter. It was an encounter that was set up by love, by the universe, to give you to bring you to somebody who needs for you to remember, for both of you, that y'all are not separate. That's why that person is in your life. That's why you've had that encounter, even if it only seems like a momentary encounter. The purpose of that encounter was that you would meet and remember for a moment that you don't have separate interests, and that a miracle of healing would be born in that encounter, and then go out into the world being a witness to the fact that we are not separate. So let's try to remember that. All right. Now, I want to remind you guys, while I'm thinking about it, that starting sometime in the month of April, I'm going to be live streaming only from my new Facebook page. So I want you, if you haven't already, I want you to go to my new Facebook page, which is AnnaRebeccaQuinn, Visionary Teacher Healer. It's my professional Facebook page where it's only going to be my classes or whatever I'm posting. So if you haven't already, go to that, my other new Facebook page, AnnaRebeccaQuinn, Visionary Healer Teacher, and follow it. So because I'm going to be live streaming from there only starting sometime in April. Okay. So thank you for that. All right. Okay. All right. Take a breath. Let's see where we're at. Okay. Paragraph 3. Don't allow other people to be sick, because if they are sick and they are suffering, you have abandoned them to their own dream of suffering by sharing their dream of suffering with them. Now, they have not seen the cause of sickness where it is. And you have overlooked where the cause of their sickness is, which is the gap that you perceive between you, that you both see between you, where the sickness has been bred. So that means that if somebody is sick, then they are overlooking the source of their sickness, which is the gap that you both perceive to be between your minds. Okay. They haven't seen that the source of their sickness is the gap that they perceive between you, and you have not perceived the source of their suffering is in the gap that is perceived between you and them. Okay. And says, and thus you have joined them in the sickness to preserve the little gap unhealed, where sickness is kept carefully protected, cherished, and upheld by firm belief, lest God should come to bridge the little gap that leads to God. Whew, wow. Okay. So, where does sickness come from? Sickness is bred in the gap that we perceive exists between our minds. That's where sickness is protected, cherished, and upheld. That's where sickness is born. That's where sickness grows. That's where sickness started. That's where sickness is upheld, protected, and cherished, is the gap that we perceive, the illusionary gap that we perceive is between our minds. Okay. That's where sickness comes from. That's where sickness is born and bred and protected and cherished. It's also that gap that we think exists between us, the ways we think I'm different from them. I look different. I sound different. I'm from different parts of the world. I seem to have different problems. We seem to have different problems. We look different. Yeah, that's the gap, right? It's all the ways that we think that we're separate and different from each other. When the truth is that there is no gap between our minds, and there is no gap between our minds and source mind. And that gap that we perceive between our two separate bodies, that's also where God comes to bridge that gap that leads to him. Uh, so how do we come to really experience God, our source? Is we allow that gap to be bridged, to be filled, to be bridged between us by remembering that we're not separate. We may look different, maybe we sound different, we may look like we have different problems, looks like we have different lives, but the truth is that we're not different. We're both created by the same creator in the same way, in the same love, in the same eternal nature. We truly, the Course in Miracles says God has one creation, one child, one, and we're all just expressions of that one creation. You know, it makes me think of an aspen grove. You know, the largest organism on earth is an aspen grove. So here you have this aspen grove that may be miles in its expanse, a million trees, but it's one organism. So every aspen tree that you see is just one expression of one organism. You know, and so humans are like the different aspen trees that seem separate and different, but all share the same root system. That's what we are, right? And all we're being, the miracle of healing is not I make us one. The miracle of healing happens when I realize, oh, we look separate, but we're not. And I can't experience happiness and health unless you do, unless you realize that we're connected. I can't experience happiness without you, and you can't experience happiness without me. Can't experience happiness by yourself. Course in Miracles says peace is one, happiness is one, abundance is one, you know. And you know that's true when you're in a relationship. When you're in a relationship, you see that either both people are happy or nobody's happy, right? When you're in a relationship and that other person isn't happy, you can be like, I'm happy, I'm fine, but that's not true. It's, happiness is one, you know, and so their happiness is your happiness and vice versa. Their health, their happiness, health, and wealth is yours and vice versa. And so that's what this section is really teaching us about how to be their healer, how to really heal people, right? Which is really how to heal yourself, right? Happiness is shared. Happiness is one. Peace is one. Just think about in your relationships. Can you really be happy when the person you're in a relationship with is in hell, is in misery? No, you can't. You can like pretend to be like, I'm fine. They're in hell, but I'm fine. But no, it's true. Peace and happiness is one. Unless they are happy, you cannot be fully happy. And so it's true in your personal relationships. It's also true in the world. If there are humans in the world that don't have enough money or food or security, guess what they're gonna do to the people who seem to have money, food, and security? Peace is one. Happiness and safety and security is one. You can't have it without other people having it also. And so if you really want to have peace and happiness, health and wealth, all that, what it comes from is you making sure that everybody around you remembers that y'all are one, and that they have what you have, because what you have and they have comes from the one source that has created us all as one. All right. Happiness is shared. Thank you, Greg. Okay. All right. So now we're in paragraph 4. Okay. It says the gap between us is little. Yet the gap that we perceive between us, it holds the seeds of pestilence and every form of ill. Okay. The gap we perceive between us holds what? Pestilence. Okay. Diseases and every form of ill. Woo-wee. Because the gap that we perceive between our minds that ain't there, that is a wish to keep apart, which means to not join. My perception of the gap that exists between us, he said, that's just your wish to not join. Okay, it's not real. There is no gap between you and others. There's no gap between you, your mind, and God's mind. There's no gap between you and others. You literally are not alone and on your own. And the gap that you perceive between you and others is just a wish. It's just a delusion. It's just wishful thinking to be not to be apart and to not be one. That's all it is. It's a wishful thinking delusion, okay, that you will suffer from. If you perceive that you are separate and different from others, then you and they will both suffer, because that perception of a gap between them, we have separate interests, you know what I mean? Like, I can experience something without them experiencing it with me. And I'm not experiencing whatever they're experiencing. I'm different from them. That is where the seeds of pestilence, disease, and every form of ill is born and nurtured and grows. Wow. And so that gap that we perceive between us, he says, it seems to give a cause to sickness, which is not sickness's real cause. The purpose of the gap we perceive between us is all the cause that sickness has. Because sickness was made to keep you separated. Sickness was made to keep you separated in a body which you see as if the body were the cause of your pain. Woo wee. I'm going to say that again. The purpose of, says, sickness was made to keep you separated in the body, which now you see as if it were the cause of pain. The body is not the cause of pain. The body is not the cause of sickness. I know it seems like it is, but the body is not the cause of sickness. The body is not the cause of pain. The cause of pain and sickness is the gap we perceive between our minds, thinking that we're different from each other because we look different and have different experiences. That's the real cause of pain and separation. Wow. It says, so the cause of pain is separation, not the body. The body is only the effect of the belief in separation. The body and any sickness or pain is the effect. The body is the effect of the belief that we are separate. That's all the body is. The body is just a side effect. It's just the effect of our belief that we are separate. It was the belief in separation that made the body. That's where the body came from. God didn't make the body. That wasn't God's idea. If God was the one who made the body, then God would be cruel. Then God would be the author of death and not of life. And the Course in Miracles says God is not the author of the body, because that would mean God was the author of death and lack and pain and sickness. God is not the author of the body. The body did not come from God, because the body doesn't last forever. That's why. Okay. God is life. God is a living God. And so God is not the author of death, so God would not create something that dies. Okay. So just wanted you to, it's really deep what the Course in Miracles has to say about the body. All right. Says, yet separation is just empty space. The separation, the gap we perceive between ourselves, each other, and everything created, it's just empty space. That's all it is. It's just empty space. It closes nothing. It does nothing. And it's as unsubstantial as the vacant place between the ripples that a ship has made in passing by. That's what the body is. It's a gap, which is nothing but an empty space, enclosing nothing, doing nothing, and as unsubstantial as the vacant place between the ripples that a ship has made in passing by. And the gap that we perceive between us is covered just as fast as the vacant space between the ripples when a boat is passing by. And it says, and that vacant space, that gap, is covered just as fast as water rushes in to close the gap between those waves. And it says, and covered just as fast as water rushes in to close the gap, and as the waves in joining cover it. That's the true nature of the gap that seems to be between us. Is just empty space, enclosing nothing, doing nothing, unsubstantial as the vacant space between the ripples that a ship has made in passing by. Think about that image. I love that. When a ship is passing by and it makes ripples, and then here's a ripple, and here's a ripple, and here's a ripple, the space between the ripples, It's just the space is always covered up, right? It says that is the true nature of the space that we perceive between us. Just because I perceive a space between my body and your body, that doesn't mean that we're separate. That space between us that seems to be between us, between our bodies, that is nothing. That ain't no space. Even quantum physics tells us there ain't no space between us. That's what quantum physics tells us, that there's no empty space between us, right? Delineating me from you. There's no. It's like, no, there's one life, and we're all a part of that. Even quantum physics tells us that now. There ain't no space, there ain't no empty space between bodies, right? And the belief that there is, though, is what's producing pestilence, disease, and all ills in every form. It's what makes us afraid. It's what makes us feel lonely and on our own. It's what makes us feel guilty. Of Course in Miracles says the idea that you're alone is also a feeling of guilt. You can't feel alone and not also feel guilty and afraid. And so, as you can see, what it's saying here, which is it's saying through the entire curriculum, the one problem is separation, the belief that we're separate. And the one answer is the acceptance of the fact that we're not. Okay. So, wherever it is right now that you're experiencing sickness, whether it's body, mind, or spirit, that's where you want to really, really focus on remembering that we're not separate. That's where you want to remember, I'm not separate from that person I've been judging. I'm not different from that person I've been judging. I'm not separate or different from that person that I'm appreciating. I'm not separate from source. I'm not separate from these trees. I'm not separate from anyone that I think of. I'm not separate from anyone I encounter. I'm not separate from any aspect of creation. I'm not separate. I'm not separate from that person that I want to be separate from. The one you want to be separate from. I don't want to be one with that person. Okay, well, that's where your sickness is coming from. Right? I don't want to be one. I'm not one with them. We're different. I would never do what they did, or they would never do what I did. Okay. Those are places where what it said here is that you are cherishing the gap that you perceive between you and they. You are cherishing the sickness that is being born and bred in that illusion of separation or gap between you guys. Whew, wow. Now, all right. It says, so now we're in paragraph 5, and I'm going to skip the first sentence, go to sentence 2, and it says, so where is the grounds for sickness when the minds have joined? Where is the grounds for sickness when the minds have joined to close the little gap between those minds where those seeds of sickness seem to grow? What happens to that sickness when the minds have joined? When you remember, yeah, pestilence. I know it's a very choice word there, Course in Miracles, pestilence, which to me means disease, right? Okay. There's a lot of disease going on around here. Diseases of the week. What's it going to be? Let's turn on the news and see what's a new disease of the week that we need to be afraid of. What could it be? Okay. All of the pestilence and all the effects of sickness in any form, they are seated and they grow in the gap that we believe exists between us. So where is it that you're telling yourself, I'm not like them, they're not like me, I don't want to be one with them? you know where is it that you are cherishing that gap between you and another, aka grievances? That's what grievances are. Grievances are, I'm not one with you and I don't want to be one with you, we're different. Okay. That grievance, that's a gap. Okay. A grievance is where you want there to be a gap between you and another, where you perceive there to be a gap between you and another, and you're maintaining it, you're protecting it, thinking that somehow it's protecting you. Okay. That's what grievances are. That's where you're seeing a gap between your mind and theirs that you want to keep. You don't want to be one with them. Right. That's where the sickness is, the pestilence is coming from. Okay. It's not coming from what's going around. It's not coming from your genetic makeup. It's not coming from anything, according to A Course in Miracles. It's not coming from anything but that grievance, which is that desire to see that gap between you and them and to keep that gap. I don't want to be one with them. Who is that in your life where you're like, I don't want to be one with them? Well, that's the one that the universe has chosen for you as the one for you to see correctly as a part of you, so that you can wake up from the dream of separation, where you can end all the effects of that dream of separation, that's the one that has been sent you from God, so that you could remember that there is no gap between you and they and you and everyone and everything, so that you can be free of all the side effects of the belief in separation, which is sickness in every form. They're the ones. They're your savior. Oh, please, Holy Spirit, help me to perceive correctly this person who you have chosen as the one to lead me back to the truth about myself and my happiness and my health and wealth that comes from the from my awakening back to the fact of oneness. Thank you for that person. All right. I love it. Greg says, politics keep me in sickness. Amen to that. Me too. Me too. I had some big old temptations for separation and sickness, around politics in the last couple of years, no doubt about it. So I'm having to apply that, to what I see going on in the world and the politics. I'm having to be like, I'm not separate from them. 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 And their piece is my piece and my piece is their piece. And I don't care what affiliation they claim or me. This truth is still true. And whether I think I'm right and they're wrong or not, if I see myself as separate and different from them, we're both going to be sick. They're going to be sick and I'm going to be sick. That's just the fact of the matter, And so I'm really using world events and politics right now to practice this, such that I can stop making myself sick and stop helping to maintain their sickness by seeing us as separate and different. The Course in Miracles says you become a healer in the moment that you see another person and you say their interests are not separate from my own. Their peace is not separate from my peace, whether they're Democrat or Republican, independent, whether they're whatever, whatever you think is different from you. Right. Yes. The last 2 days politics. Exactly. So, the ego doesn't care what it is you use to keep the lie of separation and sickness going. It don't care if you use politics to do it. It don't care if you use your grievances with your neighbor to do it. It just don't care. just as long as you keep seeing yourself as separate and different from others, as long as you keep seeing that gap between you and them, thinking that, I got to, I can't help them to be peaceful. I need to get peace for myself because we're separate, So ego don't care what you use to do that, So it don't matter. Politics is no exception. All right. And that's what so thank you for saying that, Greg, because that's where a lot of my practicing has been recently, and some other places too. There's some people recently I've been definitely wanting to be separate from, forgetting that that person is my savior, sent by God to help me remember that happiness and peace is one, and I can't exclude one person from that and be happy and healthy and wealthy. Yes, thank you. She here says, I really didn't understand what a grievance really is in the expanded way you have shared with us. Bless you. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, grievance is that place where where you see somebody's interest as separate from yours, and you want it to stay like that. All right. So it's 8:15 my time. And so all right. So we're just going to go a little bit more, and okay. Yes, I love it. So I'm going to jump to paragraph 6 now. And because I just has the part that I love, because we probably won't have time to do the whole thing. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Okay, paragraph 3. You're gonna love this. I love Bridget says forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Hola, Daniel. Lovely to see you, Dan. Thanks for joining. Lovely to see you. Hola to you. All right. Paragraph 6. It says, count then the silver miracles and the golden dreams of happiness as all the treasures you would keep within the storehouse of the world. I love that. The door to the storehouse, to the, what do you call it? The door to the storehouse, the treasure house of the world is open, not to thieves, but to your starving brothers and sisters who mistook for gold a shining pebble and who stored away a heap of snow that shone like silver. Isn't that beautiful? So instead of seeing a gap between you and others' grievances and cherishing that gap that you perceive, those differences you perceive between you and others, what you could be doing is you could be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20,000 million billion. You could be counting the silver miracles and the golden dreams of the treasures in the storehouse of the world. Oh, that's a thing. That's what I could be doing if I wasn't keeping the grievances going. If I wasn't keeping the perception of the differences between us going, I would be counting silver miracles and golden dreams in the treasure house of the world. It says, and this treasure house of the world where there's lots of silver miracles and golden dreams, it says that the door to this treasure house, this storehouse of miracles, silver miracles and golden dreams, the door is open, not to thieves, but to your starving brothers and sisters. Other people in the world, they are starving. The people in the world that you're holding grievances with, that you're like, gotta like protect my own against them. These are your brothers and sisters who are starving. And you know why they're starving? Because they mistook for gold a shining pebble, and they stored away a heap of snow that shone like silver. And they're starving because they have nothing left behind the open door of the storehouse of treasures that is the world. Wow. And so that is what you are doing. You are bringing your brothers and sisters into the treasure house, the storehouse of treasures and silver miracles and golden dreams of the world. You're bringing them in so that they can partake and not be starving anymore. That's what you could be doing. That's what our job is here. That's what our function is here as miracle workers, as teachers of love. It says that's our function here. So and that's our options here. Wow. So now, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit just so we get so we get more here. Okay. Paragraph 7. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. But instead, let your world be lit by miracles. Let your world be lit with miracles. Yes, we have water to quench every thirst. Snow melts. Hi, Trisha. Lovely to see you, Trisha. Yes. Oh, I love it. I love hearing about those options, you know. So here's my options here. I can either be um I can either be cherishing and protecting the gap I perceive between me and others, like trying to get mine, trying to get mine at the expense of them, trying to get something just for me, right? The Course in Miracles is like, you don't know what you have until you give to others, right? So I can either be trying to protect what I have as separate from them, trying to get something for myself alone, because when you're in a dog eat dog world, you got to take care of yourself, right? So I can go from that lack consciousness and also that frame of mind that actually produces more lack and sickness. I can either be in a state of mind of seeing us as separate and feeling like I gotta protect myself from you, or, or I can be seeing you as part of my peace, and I could be holding open the door to the storehouse of treasures that the world is, and bringing people in to this open door storehouse treasure house, and bringing people in so that they too can partake of the silver miracles and golden dreams that has been stored up in this storehouse, this treasure house that is this world. Okay. Those are my two options. Right. It says, that's right. Now, then it says in paragraph 7, it says, and in your storehouse, in this storehouse, where you'll be counting silver miracles and golden dreams, in this storehouse, Spirit will make a place of welcome for you, for your Creator, and for you. The door to this treasure house is open so that all those may come who would no longer starve and who would enjoy the feast of plenty sent before them. And they will meet with your invited guests that the miracle has asked to come to you. All right. In that place, so that place, that gap that we've been seeing between us. I'm not like you, you're not like me, we're different. There's a gap between us, right? I can have something without you and vice versa. In that gap between us, when we, in that gap between us, when we see that we're not separate, there is a feast that is provided to both of us, that is a feast unlike those feasts the dreaming of the world has ever shown us. Wow. So, in that gap we thought was between us, if we see that we're not separate, there will be provided for us a feast unlike any kind of feast the world has ever shown us. And also, in that gap between us, there is a storehouse of treasures. So when you say, there is no gap between my mind and yours, there is no gap between our minds, your piece and my piece are one, then, oh boy, now what you have access to is a storehouse of silver miracles and golden dreams, storehouse of treasures, and a feast at whom all are welcome. And at this feast that happens between you and them, in that place where you guys thought you were separate and different, the guests that come to that feast, the feast that's provided for them, it says the guests that come bring unlimited supply with them, for no one is deprived or can deprive. Here is a feast that God lays before God's creations and shares this feast equally with all of us. And in our sharing of this feast and the storehouse of treasures, there can be no gap in which abundance falters. Here, in this space that we thought was a gap between us, here the lean years cannot enter, because time does not waste on this feast or this storehouse of treasures, because this feast and this storehouse of treasures has no end, because love has set its table in the space that seemed to keep you and others apart from you. Wow. So, okay, that's really powerful. So, in this space that we think, this gap that we used to think lies, this gap that we perceive between us, that was where all the seeds of disease and all suffering was germinated and grew. Okay. But when we say there is no gap between my mind and yours, there is no gap between our minds and God's, then now in that place between us, now there is a storehouse of treasures where you will count the silver miracles and the golden dreams, and also a feast will be put there for you, of kind of feast where the more who partake of that feast, the more there is for everybody, and it will be a feast in a storehouse that has no end, that has no end, because love sets its table for that feast, and love puts that treasure house, that storehouse of miracles, in the space that you used to think separated you and them and made you and them different. All right. Wow. That motivates me, because I would love to experience that kind of feast, wouldn't you? A kind of feast where the more that anybody takes, the more there is for everybody, and it's welcome, it's open to everybody. I would love to experience stepping into a storehouse of treasures where I'm counting the silver miracles and the golden dreams, and the more people I bring into that storehouse, the more there is for everybody. Come on. How would you like to experience life like that? Well, I would, because that sounds awesome. That sounds like a big improvement from all the lack and disaster and disease that I thought was natural. I'm so happy to hear that it's not. It's not the only option. I'm so happy to hear that. Beautiful. All right. So now I want to tell you guys about a workshop, an upcoming workshop that me and Carla are doing. So Carla, one of my brilliant, beautiful co-teachers here, we are doing a Course in Miracles play shop at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center on April 5th. And so you've heard of workshops. This is a play shop. It's called Liberated by Love. And what it is what does it mean to feel safe and secure in these changing times? So This is, we're doing it in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center. So if you are in the Denver area and you want to come, or if you want to come into town for this, it's going to be an incredible journey through A Course in Miracles, learning about what A Course in Miracles says about how to experience true safety and security, lasting sense of safety and security, no matter what's going on in the world around you. One of the inspirations for this was we noticed that there was a lot of fear and insecurity going on in the world, and we were like, okay, what does A Course in Miracles say about how to experience peace and safety and security even when there's a lot of change going on and a lot of fear going on in the world? How do you experience safety when there seems to be a lot of disaster going on? How do you experience abundance and peace when there seems to be a lot of lack and fear of lack going on? And we're going to be looking into what A Course in Miracles teaches us about how to experience safety, security, and abundance, no matter what's going on in the world around you. And then Carla's got some beautiful games and processes by which to integrate these principles, and lunch will be provided. So if you are in the Denver area and you'd like to join that, please uh, go to the registration form. You can find this registration form on both of my Facebook pages. And so and it's very affordable. The starts at 33, 33, 44, 55. So it's a sliding scale. So whatever's comfortable and peaceful for you. All right. And also I want to remind you guys of my new website. And on my new website, Divine Revolution ARQ, you will be able to access my Course in Miracles recordings, my classes, and also my blog. I've been now posting my writings in my blog there on my website. So if you could really use some inspiration right now, go check that out. And soon that's going to be the place to access my classes. My classes are going to come off of my YouTube channel and they'll be there in my, you can access them through my website. So go check out my website, Divine Revolution ARQ, and thank you for all that. All right. Now, guys, I'm going to do just a brief integration meditation where we just breathe together and take the ideas and use them and just let ourselves take in these ideas deeply. All right, so now we're going to do the integration meditation. I'll turn up some music here. All right, so if you are able to close your eyes, then wonderful. Close your eyes and take a breath. And breathe. And just notice how you feel right now. How do you feel right now, having heard these ideas? All right. Now I want you to bring to your awareness a situation or a relationship where you are experiencing sickness or lack or pain in any form, body, mind, or spirit. Beautiful. Now I want you to now tell yourself what our teacher has been telling ourselves. We're now going to interpret what's really going on according to how our teacher in A Course in Miracles interprets it. So I want you to tell yourself, this pain or suffering, this lack of ease in any form, this dis-ease in any form that I'm experiencing has been born and bred and grown in a place where I have been seeing myself as separate from another. Where is it that I have been seeing myself as separate and different, better, worse than another? Where is it that I've been holding that grievance with another, believing that I'm different from them and they from me and wanting to keep it that way? What is the grievance? And I want you to bring that soul, that person into your awareness. I want you to see them in your mind's eye. And I want you to see that grievance between you, that gap that you perceive as between you, that you've been wanting to keep between you. And I want you to look into the gap that you perceive exists between you and them, the reasons you think you're separate and different from them. And I want you to look into it as if you're looking into a chasm. And I want you to see that that's where your sickness and suffering and pain was born and has been growing like weeds, like evil flowers. And then I want you to look at this person in your mind's eye and tell yourself, there is no gap between our minds. We have been created as one by love that sees us as one, that has created us as one. Our Creator created us as one and loves us equally as one. And tell that person, there is no gap between my mind and yours. We were created by love, the same, equal. We are equal in our Creator's love. We are not different in the ways we think. We have no separate interests. Your peace and my peace are one. The Course in Miracles tells us that the holiest spot on earth is the place where an ancient hatred has become a present love. And now I want you to look at that space, that gap that you used to see between you and them. And I want you to see that God has made a feast for both of you, welcoming you both back, celebrating both of you. And And I want you to notice now that all these beautiful, radiant beings are now coming to this feast of plenty that now is between you both. You now are both hosts of this feast of plenty that God has placed before you both in celebration of your reunion. Because now you have made the holiest spot on earth. Now I want you to look and see that, oh, look, there's a storehouse of treasures right here where we are, with an open door, with silver miracles and golden dreams shining open for you both, that now you both have access to because you have joined. The ark of peace is entered 2 by 2. The storehouse of treasures is accessed 2 by 2. The feast of plenty is partaken of 2 by 2. I want you to see this person as your savior. You could not have experienced this feast of plenty, this storehouse of treasures, this ark of peace and safety without this person. Thank them. Thank them. This is your savior. And take a breath, then breathe. Beautiful. All right, you guys. I appreciate you. Say thank you all. Thank you for joining. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you for going over to my new Facebook page. I appreciate you all more than I can say. And remember, you are entitled to miracles. And I'll see you next time I see you.